Top 10 Most Brutal Knockouts of UFC until UFC 289. In 2023, the UFC will celebrate its 30th anniversary, so it's time to review the past 3 decades of octagon action. Since the UFC's inception in 1993, there have been a number of fight-ending scenes that have had spectators scream live, viewers at home stand stiff, and athletes fall flat on their backs. These 10 fights were so brutal that the octagon mat needed counseling afterward. Number 10. Alistair Overeem vs. Francis Ngannou. Alistair Overeem's transformation into a Pez dispenser was caused by this strike. The uppercut from hell delivered by Ngannou pulled back his opponent's skull, knocking him out instantaneously, and the Predator pounced to add a supplementary hammer fist. Total pulverization in only the 2nd minute of the fight. Number 9. Roy Nelson vs. Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. Several Fight Night events were added to the calendar in 2014 as a result of the launch of the UFC Ace Fight Pass streaming service. One of them included one of the most savage knockouts in octagon history, and it happened in Abu Dhabi in April. Number 8. Kevin Lee vs. Gregor Gillespie. A flawless pair of strikes, unless your name is Gregor Gillespie. Gillespie fell backwards, as if he wanted to sit on an intangible chair after being struck by Lee's overhand right to the temple and subsequent kick to the jaw. A final punch to the chest sealed the deal. This November 2019 KO deserves to go down in history. Number 7. Georges Masvidal vs. Ben Askren. In 2019, Georges Masvidal used only 5 seconds to demolish his longtime rival Ben Askren, breaking the record for the fastest knockout in UFC history. Unsurprisingly, that remains the finest KO of the year. Despite being so swift, Masvidal's knockout was the result of careful game planning. Gamebred anticipated that Askren would go for a takedown right away and decided to counter that. He ran forward as the battle began, and when Funky ducked his head, Masvidal leaped at him with a flying knee and landed cleanly, knocking him foolish. The follow-up shots were academic, and remarkably, had the referee intervened a split second sooner, the knockout would have been recorded even faster. It remains the best flying knee in UFC history. Number 6. Impa Kasanganay vs. Joaquin Buckley. Nobody had heard of middleweight Joaquin Buckley before his October 2020 fight with Impa Kasanganay, but that all changed in the 2nd round. When Kasanganay threw a low kick at Numansa, Buckley caught his leg and jumped into the air to throw a spinning back kick to his opponent's temple, knocking him out instantaneously. The knockout immediately went viral on the internet, and social media posts containing recordings of it smashed UFC watching records. Buckley, naturally, rose to fame overnight. It was reported 2 months later that the knockout had been viewed more than 65 million times, making it one of the most well-known finishes of all time. How could anything else be considered the best KO of 2020? Number 5. Edson Barboza vs. Terry Etim. Achievement. Soul was taken. Barboza's spinning wheel kick was so powerful that it caused Etim's body, hard as wood, and fell like a tree, rather than flop to the canvas. We're simply glad the battle was called off before Britain's Etim took any more punishment from Barboza's adamantium heel. Number 4. Gabriel Gonzaga vs. Mirko Crow Cop. Crow Cop was thought to be the first-round specialist, but Gonzaga delivered one of the GOAT out-of-nowhere upsets with a powerful head kick. The connection makes a terrible sound as Mirko crumples to the carpet, completely unconscious, having swallowed a bad taste of his own medication. Number 3. Yair Rodriguez vs. Chan Sung Jung. The finest knockout of 2018 also happened to be one of the most recent in UFC history. Yair Rodriguez stopped Chan Sung Jung with 1 second remaining in the 5th and final round of their featherweight battle in the promotion's 25th anniversary show. That would have been enough to make it a classic, but the fact that it came from a wild, low-percentage strike further added to its legendary nature. The battle had been frantic throughout, and with seconds remaining, Jung tried to land one more flurry to solidify what appeared to be a win. Nobody could really believe what they'd seen, and it remains one of the most incredible and bizarre knockouts in octagon history. Number 2. Kamaru Usman vs. Georges Masvidal. When UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman used wrestling to grind out a win against rival Georges Masvidal in 2020, several fans chastised him for putting safety first. When the two men fought again a year later, the Nigerian nightmare made certain that no such claims could be made. Usman cracked game bread with a right hand that looked like it might knock out a rhino in the second round. Masvidal was knocked senseless to the ground, and there was no question about who was the better man. There were many fantastic knockouts in 2021, but this one sticks out because of the nature of the rivalry between Usman and Masvidal. Number 1. Tony Ferguson vs. Michael Chandler. 2022 saw a number of spectacular knockouts, including titles won by Leon Edwards and Alex Pereira against Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya, respectively. Nothing, however, could possibly equal Michael Chandler's front kick KO of Tony Ferguson in terms of raw brutality. Simply put, this was one of the most terrifying knockouts in octagon history. We'd seen a handful of fantastic front kick knockouts from the likes of Anderson Silva and Lyoto Machida before, but those felt more like perfectly executed traditional martial arts moves. Chandler, on the other side, appeared to be kicking a locked door open, his foot bursting through Ferguson's face and instantly detaching him from his awareness. Even taking recency bias into account, it'd be hard to disagree with any fans labeling this the greatest knockout in UFC history.